How's it going, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age. Now, for the month of February, I thought that I'd do a little something different. I wanted to cover comic book characters that have either been the dispute of lawsuits or characters who have been given cease and desist orders because of another character that they had a strong resemblance to. Now, two of the heroes that I will be covering this month, I actually have covered before, but this before I had access to the comic book, so I'm going to go over them, and I'm actually going to go over their story. And for the one we're covering today, I absolutely have to show you this story. Oh man, some of the stuff in this, it's ridiculous even for the Golden Age. So, the first hero we're going to actually cover is Wonder Man. Now, the story behind Wonder Man is a little interesting. He is the first comic book superhero to get a lawsuit. This is the lawsuit for this is the first one for comic book superheroes. Now, Wonder Man came out at almost the same time as Superman. Superman appeared maybe a few months, not more than a year, less than a year, then Wonder Man came out. And he was, Fox Publications, who printed Wonder Man, was sued because Wonder Man had a strong resemblance to this guy right here, Superman. Now, Warren Ellis was the one who created Wonder Man, and he created many great heroes over times. A few that I've actually covered, and if you watch my videos regularly, you've seen some of the people. Now, in the interviews that he's given over time, he said that Victor Fox, who was the owner of Fox Publications, told Warren Ellis that he wanted a copy of Superman. He's like, copy the Superman, but change him just enough so he's not the same thing. And then he goes on to state that in trials, when he went to trial, he gave that testimony saying, yes, Victor Fox told me to copy Superman. Now, this is what he has told people in interviews over the years, and even in a book that he wrote, he put the story down. But the transcripts from the trial, thanks, Spider-Man, the transcript from the trials says something different. I actually read some of the transcripts myself, and this has been in some of the things where they've talked about this. It sounds like he actually didn't know who Superman was. I mean, in the transcript, he's just like, I created a hero that Victor Fox told me to. So, in the interviews, he says that he was told to copy. In the transcripts, it said that he didn't copy. So, there is some contention on whether or not he actually did this. Now, he did pass away in 2005, but over so many years, he's never given a different story. So, I don't know if we're ever truly gonna know it. I know his interview says one thing, the transcripts say another thing. So, it's just gonna be up to your imagination. Now, let's go ahead and cover Wonder Man, because this story gets really, really ridiculous. And pay close attention to the very end, because I think the writer forgot. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. So let's cover this ridiculous story, and you'll see Wonder Man does pretty much closely resemble Superman. So let's do it. Wonder Man, Fred Carson, had his first and only appearance in Wonder Comics #1 in 1939. The publisher was Fox Publication, written by Will Eisner. Now, the opening panel for this comic, it's kind of weird. You're supposed to read the text of this, I think he's supposed to be a Tibetan monk, and then you're supposed to read the box. But in classic Golden Ages, you read the box to introduce the character, and then you start reading the text, but it's backwards. You read the text, and then you read the box. Thus was Fred Carson, the Wonder Man, endowed with supernatural strength and pledged to be forever the champion of the oppressed, defender of the weak, and relentless foe of all that is evil and unjust. He is known to the world as Fred Carson, a timid radio engineer and inventor. Now, there's a number of things that won't make sense in this comic book like that specifically. And then he goes to his boss, and we're not going to learn the name of the boss until the very last page. And he tells Fred Carson, "You've been doing great, but I want you to stay in your department. I don't have time for your goofy ideas." And he tells him about this radio transmitter. And all of a sudden, hey, that might be good for field operations. And then the boss's daughter shows up. Now, this is a really weird thing right there. She says, "Oh, come now, darling. Don't be angry with me. I only need about $2,000. Now, this typical rich girl stuff, but what daughter calls her father darling? I don't even think that was a thing in the 30s. She just says that she wants to go to another country. Fred said the boss looks like he's going to have a tantrum. And the boss wants to introduce Fred to his daughter. And he's like, look, she's going to Tonia, and I want you to be a chaperone. She says she doesn't want to. He says he has no interest. And then he leaves and starts looking at a radio that's telling about the town in question. And apparently there's a whole bunch of refugees in need of food. So he goes back, he says, hey, I've changed my mind. And he says, oh no, wait, they do introduce him as Hastings, but you won't know his first name until later. He says he changed his mind, and he decides to fly her out there, and she seems to just accept this whole thing. So they fly out to the refugee camp, and apparently her fiance is there, and he addresses the fiance as pretty boy, and he seems to take exception to this. And then an enemy plane starts entering the area. Everybody starts, hightailing it out of there. And then Fred Carson says, hey, you go ahead and take my plane and I'll stay behind. And they're just like, okay, well, we're going to leave. So they take off, and he changes into Wonder Man. And the airplane drops a bomb, and using his incredible speed and strength, he catches the bomb and throws it back at the people. Later, let's see, he bounds towards the battlefield, covering hundreds of yards in each bound, and finds a truck full of refugees. So he helps the truck and then takes off towards the battle area. And then we find that let's see, now it's time to test my special telephone. Hello, Red Cross base is now safe, send nurses back. So as he's trying to get the people back to this camp that he left from, we found out that the plane that the daughter and the pretty boy Reggie took off in was shot down, and they were taken in as prisoners. Now, Reggie and the daughter are brought in, and Reggie tries to bribe the general for his freedom, which doesn't work, and they're taken to jail. And then Wonder Man shows up outside of this stronghold and sees all these people who just want food, and he says that someone needs to stop the horror, so he takes an incredible leap and busts right into the stronghold. See, Wikipedia says that he can fly, but I find no evidence of that in this comic book. So he busts through the stronghold, takes out a couple of the guards, knocks them out. They even show him breaking a gun in half and being invulnerable to bullets, so you see his strength. And then he starts leaping to the other rooftops, or just one rooftop, I don't know. He catches these, well, they're not bullets, they're more like torpedoes, I guess. Well, he grabs the ammunition being fired from this gun, throws it back and blows up one gun, grabs another gun and throws it off the building, and I can only assume that he killed many of the refugees because he threw it off the top of the building and this whole citadel is surrounded by people. Okay, that's just my opinion. Next, he frees the prisoners and he wants to go get food for the people, so he grabs Reggie and he brings him along for some help. And he starts leaping to other buildings while dragging Reggie along. Now they're on the top of a roof, and he tells Reggie to go down to the people and tell them that they're going to distribute food. I'm looking at the top of the building. I don't know how Reggie got down, so Reggie either flew or Wonder Man threw him. I don't know. It's another strange thing that goes completely unexplained. So he sees that Reggie isn't helping, and so he yells. It says, endowed with mighty lungs, the Wonder Man bellows above the tremendous roar of the crowd. If you all line up in an orderly fashion, everyone will be fed. And they do, they all line up. So he decides to take action against the granary. The guards are shooting at him. He makes quick work of them, and the granary is guarded by steel doors, and he rips them apart as if they were paper. Now, this next scene is really odd. There is no way that yellow crate came out that door. And maybe that red and that another one with the weird shape, what is that, blue? Surrounded by red? Those two could have come out, but that yellow crate is way too large to fit out there. And then in the next panel, we see the way he stacked the food. So, the way it's stacked like that would completely collapse under its own weight. Okay, so they show him handing out food, and the daughter is helping. And she says, I'm exhausted, and she gives Wonder Man a kiss on the cheek. And then we see that she faints, and she goes, oh, poor kid, she's fainted from exhaustion. She's very pretty. Too bad we're worlds apart. So Wonder Man gives a kiss to the unconscious girl. I don't even want to get into a discussion about consent. There obviously wasn't any here. Anyways, he runs off with the girl, and he finds Reggie, who apparently knocked himself unconscious by trying to run and escape. So Wonder Man wakes him up and says, get Nora, the daughter, out of here. There's many planes at the field over there, and he points the direction, and they take off. So he goes to find the general and the leader of the army, and it says, with a great leap, he again finds the office of General Attila. Now, as you see behind him, he crashed through the wall to get there. And apparently these guys are deaf and blind because they don't see that the wall, or hear that the wall was just destroyed. They're sitting there talking. We'll stir up the people again, and I'll start another war. Oh, I've come just in time. And then they notice him. So he beats up the general and his little cohorts that are there. And he goes, if you ever feel like starting again, just look in the mirror at yourself, or look at yourself in the mirror and remember me. Apparently, he put a big mark on the general's face, let him know that if you cause trouble, Wonder Man will be back. Wonder Man leaps from the building and runs off into the night. And then he changes back into Fred Carson and calls his boss. I'm going to try my radio now. Hello, hello, New York. This is Fred Carson reporting. The war has ended at last. And it says, in the office of Donald Hastings. Hey, his boss has a name now, Donald. And he says that the radio works great and they'll scoop everybody in the world. Now, here's where things get weird. It's in the very next panel, it says a few days later, Dawson arrives in the office of his chief. His name is Fred Carson. Where did they get Dawson? And then he says, hiya, boss. How's your daughter? I got lost in Tarovina. I don't know where they went. Here, I'm going to put the name of where they went on the bottom. It was Titania. And she says she's okay. Reggie saved her life. And Carson's like, oh, he did? That's nice. And one last thing is, Fred says, that gadget of yours worked great. By the way, who is this Whitey Wonder Man everyone's talking about? And he goes, Wonder Man? Never heard of him. Which is a stupid thing for him to say. At the top panel, we say that the war has ended at last. Wonder Man ended the war. He cannot report the war ending without reporting about Wonder Man. And then he says, everyone's talking about. And he says, I have no idea. So apparently, he didn't pay attention to the war, and he's incredibly dull because he doesn't know the Wonder Man that everyone's talking about. Doesn't matter, only comic. And right over here in the very last panel it says, howdy boys and girls, how would you like your own real Wonder Man ring? Just like the one that was given to me by the old yogi. Okay, that would be Tibetan. Which makes me powerful and enables me to accomplish astonishing feats. Well, I personally arranged to get them for you absolutely free. Just turn to page 44 for particular details, which, I don't know. I think having a Wonder Man ring would be a keen idea. I don't know how many ever made it out there, or how many people read this. I'd like a Wonder Man ring. I think that'd be cool. So that's the story of Dawson. Oh, wait. Somebody wrote that down wrong. Fred Carson. And that's the story of Wonder Man. Now, I'm not going to look down on Warren Ellis if he was being untruthful. I mean, the interviews does make him sound more stoic, but, you know, history is written by the winners, and a lot of times we'll say things that make us look more stoic in the long run. But, anyways, that's the story of Wonder Man. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that my ramblings in the beginning didn't... Well, I hope you understand about my ramblings in the beginning. There are more heroes to come that have either been cease and desist orders or lawsuits, so stay tuned for the rest of the month. Until then, I'll be seeing you.